Be sure to check out my store for the stuff I use and templates at a low cost, and get my everything pack so you can have everything in my store at a reduced cost, less than $20 if you tweet it out. What's up guys, Quezzy here bringing you guys another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you two pretty cool things to do in Illustrator and Photoshop. The first one is this particle wave sort of effect, and then this one is this logo particle wave effect, I suppose. This one actually uses the particle wave, so you'll have to do that one to do this one, but you can just do the particle wave by itself as well. So I'm going to be showing you how to do these two things today. I'm going to do both Illustrator parts first and then both Photoshop parts. So if I remember, I'll put timestamps in the description so you can click and just see what you want. If you don't want to see the logo effect, you just want to see the particle wave effect, or vice versa, whatever. But this particle wave effect, the Illustrator part, was actually created by Spoon Graphics. You might be familiar with him. I'll link his website down below. This is where I saw it, on his website a little bit ago, and I've kind of been messing around with it the last few days, especially this weekend. So credit to him for the Illustrator part. I kind of ran it with it in Photoshop, but yeah, let's just hop into the Illustrator part and get started. So this is what the wave looked like in Illustrator, kind of lame, pretty boring, and then this is what the bull logo looked like. So you can see we do a lot in Photoshop, but the actual effect really comes into play in Illustrator. So let's go ahead and just create a new file in Illustrator. I do a default 1500 by 1500 for basically everything I do here when I'm just messing around, like so. So we have just a blank canvas. Let's hit none on our fill, and then flip our fill and our stroke so we have a black fill. Now mine isn't completely black, so I'm going to double click and make it completely black. And then grab the rectangle tool and let's fill out this whole thing, and then hit Command 2 to lock it, and now let's get started. So let's flip the fill and the stroke again, grab the stroke, make it a color. I do this blue, you can do whatever color you want. Sorry if I'm going fast, we gotta get through this stuff, there's a lot going on, so I'm gonna try to move quickly, but you can slow down the video to see what I'm doing if you need to. Now we're gonna go ahead and grab the pencil tool. It's at the shaper tool. If you click and hold, go down, select the pencil tool, just go stroke of 1, and you might want to double click on it and bring the smoothness all the way up, and then you can change the within pixels to whatever. Mine's at 7, I don't know what yours is at for a default, but you can click OK. You can also do this part with the pen tool, it's up to you. I just think the pencil's a lot easier, you get you get a lot more random results. So let's go ahead and just kind of draw some things going on, different sizes. It's a little too small. You can just mess around like so. Go different directions, different lengths. Oops. Something like this. The more you do, the more complex this design or the particles will look. So something like this. This is fairly simple. I could have done more, but this is alright. So you gotta want to mess around, get something you think will look good. Once you do, select it all with the selection tool, and we want to come over here to the stroke tab. It has these 3 lines here over in the sidebar. If you don't have it over here, you can go to Window, Stroke, or Command F10. Now we want to make the caps smooth or rounded, and the corners as well, so the middle two buttons. Then check dash line, select the left one here which says preserves exact dash and gap lengths, which is what we want. Make the dash 0 and make the gap anywhere between 5 and 10. I go with a 7 as a default, and then later on when I edit each path, I'll drop some to 5, move some up to 10, and maybe even throw in a couple of 13s or something like that if I have enough paths. But once you do that, you want to just go ahead to Object, Blend, Make. You can see we have these lines pop up in between all our other lines. So we want to go Object, Blend, Blend Options, so we can do something with these. So we don't want smooth color, we want specified steps. Set that to 30. I usually go anywhere from 25 to 65. That's the range I found works best for this. In my limited testing this out and playing around with it for this weekend. But then check preview to see what you got, And this is sort of what we're rocking with. So I'm okay with this. Click OK. And now let's kind of modify each one of these paths. So get the direct selection tool and we can start messing around. So things on the outside I like to keep smaller. Stuff in the middle I try to keep thicker and brighter. So this path going through the middle, I'm going to select that and just bump up the weight 1. And I'm going to bump the gap down to 5. Now that looks alright. So for the outside ones I usually go either 0.25 or 0.5. I don't think I have enough to go down to 0.25, so I'm going to do 0.5. And then I'm just going to edit the gap, maybe put it on 10. And then we can do that with the others. So gap here, we'll do 9. Keep the weight at the same place, why not? Go here, we'll bump down to 0.75, sure, and the gap of 5. And we can just keep doing this to get something a little more interesting. Gap here, we can do 9. Sure, so that's alright with me. I think this looks okay. We can move on to the next step because we're not done yet. So we want to get the pencil tool again, and this time we're just going to create a random path. So this probably takes a lot of trial and error to get something that looks good. It takes me a while to get something. So just draw a random path. You probably won't be able to see it, but once you draw it, grab the selection tool, select everything, go Object, Blend, Replace Spline. Now it'll create some sort of effect. You have to judge whether it looks okay. I don't really like this, so I'd probably keep playing around. Command Z to go back, Command Z to get rid of that last spline, and try it again. Alright, so I don't know if I'm going to get anything that looks as good as the original one, but I'm just going to show you where you go from here once you do find something. So say I'm happy with this, I want to keep moving forward. The last final steps we can do is kind of distort this a little bit so it's not as perfectly smooth and whatnot. We want to go over here and it will be the width tool. If you click and hold, you can see we have a bunch of other options. So I'm going to start off here with the wrinkle tool, actually the bottom one, and if you double click on that you can see we have different settings. I went with a 300 pixel by 300 pixel brush size. You can play around, go smaller if you want smaller effects, obviously, go bigger if you want to affect more of it. So 300 by 300 I found is pretty good, but you'll notice if I go here, the paths start highlighting, and if I click, it just kind of distorts them a little bit. So we can get cool looks, and what I did was this one I have selected, the wrinkle tool, is less extreme. It just kind of makes it a bit bumpy, and it looks pretty nice, probably the nicest looking one out of all of them. So I do it typically in the middle where it's the brightest, because you get cool waves are showing up here. So you can do something like that, and then you can also select, say, the crystallize tool. I think this is the most extreme, and you'll see why here. If I click, it just goes kind of bonanza, it goes kind of bananas, and you can see it did a lot there. This one actually looks pretty okay, but if I click, say, here, it kind of goes a little too much, doesn't look as good. So I usually use this one sparingly on the outside, but I don't go too much. Depending on what yours looks like though, you never know what's going to work, what's not, so you just have to mess around and get different looking things. So you can do that. You can play around with the other tools. I haven't really messed with these too much, but you can go around, find something you like. Once you do, you want to select it, copy, and then I'm going to copy this one that I originally made because I think it looks better. Obviously you can tell I did a lot better job on this one because it was taking a lot of time. But you just want to copy that, hop into Photoshop. I'm going to create a new document. I'm just going to do a 1080p document. You can do what the clipboard has copied, but I like to do 1080p document. Create it, paste it, smart object, OK. Make it the proper size, so I just make it so the width is right, or the height is right, and hit enter. Now we'll come back to this in a second, but I want to show you the logo portion first. So I'm going to get rid of this, and show you if you wanted to do, say, what I did with the bull. So we can keep the black background, it doesn't really matter. We won't be able to see what's going on, but if I just grab my bull logo and drag it in, you can see, well, you can't see it, but it's here. It's just a plain black transparent PNG, but you can have a JPEG or something with black and white, but it needs to be black and white for this, because this is all I've messed with. I'm not sure if you can use like a normal picture and get different results or whatnot, but this is like a black and white logo. Drag it into Illustrator, you'll see some options up here. We want to click embedded. There's a drop down arrow here next to image trace. We want to select silhouette and then click expand, and you can see we have a path going around our logo, in this case the bull's logo. So we want to select that, flip it, flip the fill so we just have a stroke, and let's select our blue. There we go. I'm just gonna make this a little smaller, and there's a lot of different variations you can go about doing for this to create different effects. I figured out by just doing one path around it looks the best, so that's the way I'm going to show you. But let me just tell you guys can experiment and get a bunch of different results by combining this and what I just did with the wave, creating multiple paths and creating a bunch of different steps, different sizes and whatnot. But I'm just going to create one path around, so I'm going to actually use the pen tool for this one instead of the pencil tool, because the pencil tool is hard to come around in a circle and line up the edge points. So let's just go, I'm going to click around here quickly. There we go. Something simple like that. I could probably duplicate this and keep going around and get a cooler result as a final thing. I was playing around with that earlier and I just couldn't find anything I liked, but I thought this simple one looks the best, and you'll see what I mean by simple. So we have our two paths here. I probably should round that one out a little bit. So I'm going to select them both, and we're going to do the same settings we did before: round cap, round corner, dash line, 07. I have the left one selected. Object, blend, make, object, blend, blend options. Specified steps, try 30. Preview. There we go, that's pretty cool. Click OK, and this time we're gonna get the direct selection tool, select the middle, and go to 2 or 3. I think I went 3 before. I'm gonna keep the gap at the same, but I'm gonna select the outside one, and we're gonna go all the way to 0.25. So now it's like a big line to the thin ones to basically fading out. And that's basically it for this guy. So we can again select this, copy, and hop into Photoshop and paste it. Smart object, cool. I'm gonna put this below the background if I unlock the background, because we're not gonna be using this for a little bit. Now, I don't think I said this earlier, but if you double click on the smart object, you can edit it in Illustrator further if you need to, which is pretty awesome. Alright, so this wave is very dominant in the bottom left. We want to have it keep going across like I had originally. So I'm going to duplicate this, and let's just rotate it, and we'll just put it like right here, because this bit will fade out, yeah, like so, and these kind of look like they keep going, which is what we want. That looks pretty alright. That's kind of the shape I want. Let's double click on the original. I forgot to do this. Let's add an outer glow, screen, blend mode, 28% opacity, spread to size 25. The color is just anything close to the color you have, so I went with like a cyan blue, as I had a blue. You can see it looks pretty green though in the back, which works well with the other colors we're going to be using in this. So go ahead, click OK, and I'm going to copy that to the other one. Cool. And let's minimize those, duplicate the original, and let's just expand the size a lot. I'm gonna have to zoom out a bit, something like that, and then just drop the opacity somewhere in the single digits, so maybe 5. We might have to adjust that even more later on. Hopefully the glow won't give us problems. If it does, you can just simply get rid of it. But I think the glow's alright here for a second. Now duplicate that layer again, and this time we're just going to blur this layer. So I don't remember if I rasterized this before, but let's just try to blur it as is. Blur, Gaussian blur. Let's see what we get. Yeah, this is definitely going to look a bit funky, so let's just get rid of the outer glow and then do filter blur, Gaussian blur. I think that will be right. Yeah, that looks a lot better. And bring up, make the size somewhere in the hundreds or the high 90s, maybe something like that. And that should look alright. It's very subtle right now, but that will pop in a second. The next thing we want to do is add a kind of like a color overlay, but not really. We don't want this black. We want colors. We want a blue essentially. We want to make this blue. So we're gonna go ahead and make a solid color. And I have the color written down here somewhere, and it is 183961. Okay, we're gonna set this to lighten and set it to about 12%. And this blur one should stand out a little more. You probably can't even tell. I can't even tell either. Maybe the glow was on originally and it was rasterized. I'm not sure. I forget what I did for that. But I think it looks alright as is anyway. Hop back down to the bottom layer, which will be the bottommost layer for you. You probably won't have this smart object on the bottom like I do. And we're going to create a new layer. And we just want to get some sort of green. So select your cyan from originally or something close to it, and just go slightly south and select something a bit greener. Grab the brush tool, get a soft brush, and just take out like this corner and set that to color, or set that to lighten rather, and another low opacity, maybe 5. If that's a little too much, you can go a little smaller. I think 4 works. That's alright. And we want to keep going from here. We're not done yet. We have to add some more greens. So let's go above everything but the color fill. Create a new layer. Let me get rid of that dock. And now get that green we just selected. Get the soft brush again, and this time we're just going to go into the wave and kind of just change some colors. So maybe like up here, maybe down here, maybe top of here. That should be good, and we set that layer to color, and that just adds a bit of green. And then to kind of blend them a little better, we can create a new layer, make it slightly more green, and just go next to it like so, like so. And set it to the same thing, but this time we're gonna bump down the opacity. 25 works, and now our colors kind of blend together nicely. I think that's looking a lot better. And there's one more thing we gotta do to make this pop really well. Actually, 2 more things. I keep bringing up this dock. Holy crap! Go away. So let's actually hop down here, grab levels, and we can bring in this left arrow a smidge, but then bring this right arrow in a good amount to brighten all this stuff up. And then go down here again and grab a vibrance, and then just bump the vibrance all the way up, and then bump the saturation up, and let's get some vibrant colors going on here. So now it's starting to look really good. The final touch to this would then be to go right below the color fill layer again, create a new layer, go to the brush, make sure you have white selected. Then you want to come to your brushes, go to this oil pastel large, should be a default brush. Then go to your brush settings over here, I believe it's this guy, brush, so you can go window brush. We're going to uncheck dual brush, uncheck smoothing if it's there, go to brush tip shape. Size, we're going to set this to like 400. Spacing, bump this up to like 70. 72 works. Go to shape dynamics, Size jitter, bring that up to 100. Angle jitter, just bring it up until it's like enough, so 20% works. And then follow your wave. So I'm just gonna go like, maybe finish that off a little bit, and then set that to overlay. You can also go filter, blur, Gaussian blur on this guy a little bit, but we want to bring down the opacity a little bit. I think something like that looks good though. It just kind of blends in with the wave, looks really good. You might remember this from my space background technique or tutorial. It's part of my technique for kind of creating stuff like this. But we can actually create a new layer and fill in some of these spaces over on the dark side, not of the forest but of our document here. So maybe like right here and then up here, and set that to overlay as well, and drop down the opacity. You can have it stick out a little bit, but not too much. Something like that, and then that's basically the wave. So we have the bull here, and we're gonna add that same outer glow. So I'm just gonna paste it. You guys can copy it from what we just did. I don't think I have anything going on. That's normal, right? Let me zoom in here a smidge. Yeah, okay, everything's looking pretty normal. So I'm actually gonna duplicate this and zoom out. I don't know why I zoomed in, and increase the size so we have something like that. We could also increase the size of the original one. This might be a little too small. Maybe something like that. Also, I should probably center all of this stuff, but for the sake of tutorial, we can kind of just fly on through. Now, I don't know if I said at the beginning, but we actually need the wave to create this effect. So I'm going to hop down here and grab the wave. I think this is the original. Actually, let me just duplicate it, drag it up. Yeah, that's the original. Let me check that out. And then we're going to put this all around the bull here. So I'm going to rotate it, put a little bit of it here. Maybe a little more than a little bit. Duplicate it, put it on the other side, kind of follow it. I'm still leaving a lot of the middle here though available to these random dots that are there. And then let's do it to the top as well. Maybe get the other side. Something like that. There we go. That's pretty cool. Kinda, you can play around with that obviously, and mess around with the colors maybe a little bit. But now let's create a new layer. Have white as our color selected, grab the brush, and let's grab a soft brush. We're going to use the bracket key to increase the size, make it just big enough, bigger than our logo, and click and set that to overlay. So now that'll brighten up the center a lot, and that's looking pretty good. Now we want to do the color fill thing again. I couldn't think of the word. So let's go solid color, and I have a different color here. It's pretty similar to the last blue we did, but this is 14557, and this is a little lighter. And then we want to set that to lighten 47%. So this one obviously is coming out slightly different. I actually want to bump these levels up a little more, darken it up. That's alright. Maybe bump down the saturation then. Alright, so there we go. That's looking a little bit nicer. And then let's go again just slightly below the color fill, create a new layer. This time we want a black and we want a soft brush. And we're just going to kind of buff out these edges, I suppose. Something like that. And I think I like that. We can bump down the opacity if we want. So it kind of cancels out as we go to the edges. We can do it up top too, maybe down below if we want. I think that's looking pretty good. That's basically the effect, but one thing you can do to cap it off is grab the original logo. So let me just drag it on here, line it up with the one that's here. This won't be perfect. You would probably have to pen tool some bits around it to get it lined up perfectly, But if you just go to fill, take it to 0, double click on the layer, and then go to inner glow, set it to overlay, like 100% opacity, bump up the size to whatever, you can get like a nice inner glow going here, which can just enhance the effect a little bit. And then finally, you can create a new layer, white, soft brush, click around, set it to overlay. That'll brighten up some spots. You can also just get different colors like we did before with like the greens. Maybe there, and set those to color as well, just to mix up the colors. And then that's basically the effect. Sorry if I sped up there to the end. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial though. If you did, drop a like on it below. Be sure to subscribe for more tutorials like this. And be sure to subscribe for streams. I'm actually going to stop streaming on Twitch, come back to YouTube, where I streamed a few years ago. But I think that's the smart move. But yeah, subscribe for that. Follow me on Twitter @Quezzy. Add my Snapchat, which is also Quezzy, just Quezzy by itself, where I post previews of stuff like this. All the files will be in the description for you guys to download. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.